Welcome to everyone to Sauce Time Gaming. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video once again. And it's been a little over a week of Season 4's launch, and there were many changes made to both attachments and weapons, and even additionally some changes made on June 30th. And today I wanted to go ahead and cover those changes on the long range meta and how it has shifted to give you some off meta builds. So some builds that maybe you haven't heard your favorite streamer talk about, but these are still viable builds that have their own unique characteristics to them or can be built in a unique way for yourself and your playstyle. And let's go ahead and hop on right into things. If you do enjoy today's video, make sure you click on that like button below. Comment if you do enjoy any of the builds we're going to talk about today. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on right into things. So for the first weapon today, the Cold War AK-47 received a sustained fire increase, and although it might not be as notable, I don't really have anything else to compare it to currently, but this is how it looks right now. And in regards to the build itself, it's pretty straightforward for Cold War weapons: the Groove Suppressor, Spetsnaz RPK Barrel, Spetsnaz Grip, the Axial Arms 3X, or whatever side you really like or prefer. And then for the magazine, it's quite interesting. I like the 45, the Bakelite 60, and the Groove Mag Clamp. It's really up to you. This Groove Mag Clamp is really fun to use. The reload speed is super fast, and you might find a lot of enjoyment if you're able to land your shots consistently because you're only working with 30 bullets at this point. Now, when we talk about the Vargo 52, it received some slight recoil buffs to a couple of barrels, which mainly, looking at the task force recoil changes, are as seen in this clip right here. And when we talk about the build itself, we're going to be running the Groove Suppressor, the 18.6-inch task force barrel, the underbarrel, the Spetsnaz Grip, whatever sight you prefer. I run the 3X, and then the same case here. You can run, because the pretty much the animation and the whole reload speed is very similar to the AKs. You can run the 45 round, the Spetsnaz 60, or the Groove Mag Clamp. Again, very fast reload speed and very fun if you're able to land those shots, again, because you're working with just 30 bullets. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Volkssturmgewehr that received a visual recoil adjustment, and you can see the comparison with the pre and post nerf, or post change if you want to call it like that. When we talk about the build itself, we're going to be running the MX Silencer, the Krosnick 428mm 05V barrel, the M1941 handstop. You can run the Carver foregrip or the M1930 as well, but I liked the consistency the M1941 gave you. The 60 round mag, you can also run the 40. I got used to the 60 round at this point, so I really enjoy this, and it's way more bullets, of course. Lengthened for that bullet velocity, stippled grip tape because of that initial kick this weapon naturally has. Perfectionist for some extra recoil control, fully loaded or on hand, whatever you prefer to run, although this weapon does aim down sight pretty quickly. The Krosnick S12 VPS stock, and whatever sight you prefer. Now, when we talk about the bar, it received nerfs to its 30-inch XL barrel, recoil control, and visual recoil control, as well as the 8mm Clouser 40 round, which received also a recoil control. Now, based on the comparison here, the change is as small as it gets, so if you really like the bar, you really shouldn't be deterred by it based on these changes. The only thing that really changed was its overall ranged effectiveness, but nothing that should pretty much stray you away from using it or from enjoying it at longer ranges. Now, when we speak about the builds, let's talk about a medium fire rate suppressed version here, which is the Mercury Silencer or the MX Silencer. You can really run either one. The CGC 30-inch XL barrel, M1941 handstop, or any underbarrel you really like. The recoil isn't really as severe or difficult to control. The 8mm Clouser 40 round mag, lengthened, rubber grip, which received some sort of hidden change that now made it the best for the bar. Hard scope, on hand for the extra aim down sight speed, the Chariot WR, and whatever sight you prefer. Now, when we talk about the best no recoil bar but has a low fire rate, we're going to be running the recoil booster to speed up that fire rate, the CGC 30-inch XL barrel, the M3 ready grip just for that extra movement speed. You can also run the SMLE pistol grip if you prefer. It really doesn't affect the zero recoil of it. The .50 BMG 60 round mag, or the 40 if you want to get a little more mobility. Lengthened taped grip for some extra mobility, hard scope, on hand, Chariot WR, and whatever side you prefer. This build right here pretty much runs a zero recoil spread, so you should be great to go if you change the rear grip or the underbarrel, whichever way you like. Now, for a fast fire rate, long range or even close range option. We're going to be running the recoil booster, the CGC 27-inch 2B barrel, the carbon foregrip, the 8mm Clouser 40 round mag, lengthened rubber grip hardscope on hand cherry WR, and whatever side you prefer. The logic around these bar builds was explained in the recoil breakdown and even updated bar build videos, so you can click that up here if you do want to check those out more in detail. Now for the STG, the 50 round and the VDD 760mm barrel nerfs now give it more recoil than the 620mm barrel, and even though it is a small difference, the 620mm barrel gives you the first 7 bullets at a no recoil spread every time you pull the trigger, no matter the magazine type. And so the TTK wise, really the difference here is only of about 100 milliseconds, so you're really not missing out on that much. So you can go with a more accurate version with the 620mm barrel that just has a slower TTK, or with the 760mm that gives you a bit of a faster TTK, but you have to control a little more of that recoil, as you're seeing from the comparisons up here. Now when we talk about the build with that specific barrel, we're going to be running the MX silencer, the Krosnik 620mm precision barrel, whatever side you prefer, Constance tactical stock, acrobatic. I like this for more mobility. You can run sleight of hand if you want, on hand or fully loaded, whatever you prefer here. Hatched grip is a great option, and even more now that it received that vertical control buff. Whatever magazine type you prefer, as you saw from the recoil patterns, you can run any of the 60, 45, or 50, and they're very easy to control. The only change is the damage output or the fire rate. Lengthened, and then M1941 handstop. I felt this was the most consistent, but you can run the carbon foregrip, the M1930 strife angle, and maybe even any other of these. It'll just give you a little bit more recoil, but with that, this is the best 7 initial 0 recoil bullet build. Now, the AS44 received a buff to its recoil control to its long-range barrel, the Kovalevskaya 615mm, and its 7.62 by 54mm R 40-round mags. So here are the comparisons of the most updated best long-range builds with the current buffed barrel and, in the case of the 40-round magazine. Now, when we talk about the builds for each one, we're going to be running for the 50-round mag, MX silencer, the Kovalevskaya 615mm, bipod, or really any other barrel you want. I just like the consistency of the bipod and that extra control if you crouch or prone. Lengthen for long range, stipple grip tape, sleight of hand, fully loaded or on hand, ZAC 12A specifically for this one, and whatever optic you prefer. When we're talking about the 60 round build, we're going to be running the MX silencer, the Kovalevskaya 615mm barrel. The carbon foregrip was the most consistent in my opinion with the 60 round. Of course, the 60 round, this is not hollow point. You can run length in here. Stipple grip tape, steady or sleight of hand if you like, or whatever option you want. There's nothing for recoil control really. On hand or fully loaded, ZAC 12B custom for this specific build, and whatever sight you prefer. And lastly, for the 40 round build, we're going to be running the recoil booster for some extra fire rate if you like. If not, you can run the MX silencer or Mercury silencer. The Kovalevskaya 615mm barrel, M1941 handstop was the most consistent based on the testing for this magazine. The 40 round mag, lengthened, stipple grip, steady, or whatever perk you want, on hand or fully loaded, ZAC 12B custom, and whatever sight you prefer. And with that, you have the 3 best AS44 builds, which if you want more details and more proof of how the spreads go, you can check out this video up here. So for the KGM40, there was a long-range update done to the barrels here. Now the Raisdorf 720mm gives you a better bullet velocity for a shorter damage range drop-off. The Krosnik 700mm barrel gives you a negligible difference in bullet velocity and adds an extra 8 meters to your damage range. Now here, based on how you're going to go ahead and build the weapon, you can go ahead and switch between pretty much better movement or control, or less control and more movement, depending on the barrel and the attachments you ultimately choose. As you can see from the recoil patterns on the screen, based on the changes they did to the tight grip, you're actually able to run the tight grip to make this weapon as accurate or as effective as possible without having to stack on a lot of accuracy attachments. So when we're talking about the build itself, this is pretty much the skeleton you can run, and you can build this in 2 different ways. You can go ahead and build this as a long range option, which you can go for the MX silencer or the Mercury silencer, and the Krosnik 700 or the Raisdorf 720. And again, just based on the difference of damage range and bullet velocity and control. The underbarrel, whatever you prefer in all honesty. Let's say for example, I'll go with the M1941 handstop. In the magazine, we can go with the 8mm Clouser 60 rounds, for example, and we can run tight grip in perk 1. Now, if you're looking at the rear grip, we're running taped grip, and that's because tight grip gives you such a benefit in recoil control that you really don't have to worry about anything else. Now, if you want to run this in the most accurate way, then definitely stack on the polymer grip or any grip that you're really enjoying currently that gives you recoil control, and you'll be able to get a laser beam. However, we're talking about something that's way more tailored to mobility. So if we're running tight grip, then we'll go ahead and run the 8mm Clouser 60 round because it doesn't give us any extra control. We can go ahead and run, for example, the Mark 6 Skeletal. If I want to run that here, I'll run the Krosnick 700mm for that extra damage range, and then maybe I can leave the MX Silencer or go with the Mercury if I want more movement. Now, if I went ahead and maybe changed to the 40 round, which a lot of people tend to talk about because of the extra fire rate and the extra control, then you might as well drop the tight grip and maybe run something like sleight of hand or even discard, which allows you to reload quicker when your bullets reach a red counter or they reach 0, right? So each of these options will be way better because you will be eating out these bullets based on the fact that the weapon doesn't hit too hard. However, it is a very interesting build that you can go ahead and pretty much tailor around your preferred liking based on how you really want to run this weapon. Now, the way I'm currently running it that I'm finding a lot of success with is either Mercury or MX. It really depends on certain scenarios, but let's say Mercury Silencer, I run the Krosnick 700mm barrel. In the underbarrel, I run anything for mobility. There's still a lot of testing going about, but let's say for example, I run the Mark 6 Skeletal here. For the magazine, I like to run the 60 round if I want to take on multiple targets at a time, and then I'll go ahead and run tight grip just to be able to get the maximum control from that single attachment. And then here, as you see in the stock, I'm running the Raisdorf because again, even though this is affecting my recoil control, the tight grip really makes up for a lot of it. And although this weapon has a little bit of a side to side when you ultimately shoot it, the actual recoil pattern is extremely easy to control, and so you're gonna get a way better mobility KGM40 that still is pretty lethal at long ranges. So let me know in the comment section what you think about this one, because I think it's one of the most interesting long range builds that you can really add that variety factor to and really enjoy in a lot of different ways. Now, moving into the Cooper Carbine here, its recoil intensity was adjusted in a way to make people rely less on tight grip as a perk. Now, interesting enough, the zero recoil build we went ahead and built before used hard scope instead of tight grip, so we went ahead and tested that. As you can see from the current recoil comparison here, you're still getting a pretty much zero recoil spread when you're crouching or proning, so this is still a viable build to run. Now, when we're talking about the compressed rounds, these were slightly buffed, and upon testing the fastest firing build with the 22-inch Cooper Custom, which people tend to prefer due to the forgiving fire rate, I went ahead and found the best recoil version of it and came up with this pattern created by the following build for each of these. Now, for the no recoil setup, we're still running the MX Silencer, the 18-inch Ragdoll G45, the bipod, the 9mm 60 round drum, compressed rounds, grooved grip, hard scope, fully loaded or on hand, Cooper 45W, and stock, and whatever optic you prefer. For the fastest fire rate build, we're going to be running the MX Silencer, the 22-inch Cooper Custom, M1930 Strife Angled, M90 or 9mm 60 round drum, compressed rounds, hatched grip, tight grip, on hand, Cooper 45W, and whatever sight you prefer. And with that, you have the best Cooper Carbine builds in Season 4. Now, the NZ41, the fans' favorite or infamously favorite, received a couple of different changes. The Lord Mark 1 burst barrel was buffed in its initial recoil and nerfed in its sustained recoil. The 50 round mag was slightly nerfed in its vertical control and visual kick. And the Lord Mark 3 SC stock's sustained fire control was nerfed by 1%. Now, when we talk about builds for each type of barrel, you would be well off running the following. For the burst barrel, we'll be running the MX Silencer, the Lore Mark 1 burst barrel, of course, Carver foregrip, the 8mm Clouser 40 round mag, lengthened, stipple grip, discard, fully loaded or on hand, Orb Weaver E-Pack, and whatever side you prefer. Now, this build for some reason, upon all the testing, really felt inconsistent in a lot of scenarios. So this is the build that I'll probably be running. I won't be running the 50 because I was getting way more inconsistencies with that. So if you're going to choose the Mark 1 burst barrel, I would recommend you run the 40 round mags. And even if you run out of bullets rather quickly, the discard perk will help you reload in no time. And then when we're talking about the Orb Weaver build, we're going to be running the Mercury Silencer, actually, the Orb Weaver 360mm BC barrel, the M1930 Strife angled, the 50 round mag here. The 40 round is okay, but the 50 round really gives you a lot of consistency and it's way more bullets, so it's a win-win there. Lengthened polymer grip, discard, fully loaded or on hand, Ravenwood padded, and whatever sight you prefer. And with that, you have pretty much the most accurate NZ41 currently in Season 4 as of this day. Lastly, for the MG42, it received a horizontal recoil reduction to an almost zero recoil halt. Now, if you remember the Cold War MP5 where it sort of kicks up and then suddenly stalls, well, the MG42 now does the same thing. So instead of kicking up and then stopping and kicking just to the left, now it just kicks up and stops completely after a certain amount of bullets. So for the best long-range build currently, you want to run a couple of different changes here. You can run the MX Silencer or the Mercury, whatever you really prefer. But the barrel is really what changes things a little bit, because the VDD 890mm 32M barrel now is less of a viable option for control than the Krosnick 450mm B42 MG barrel. It does give you not way better TTK, but it gives you about 45 to 80 millisecond difference in TTK, but the control with the Krosnick 450 gives you way better results. And so you can pretty much choose whatever you want here. Both of them are similar. However, the Krosnick 450mm is way better in the recoil control department. Now, when you're running this build specifically, which is the 6.5 Sakura 125 round drum, lengthened pine tar grip, frenzy, or you don't really have to run tight grip, because with this build as it is, you don't really get any benefit when you add tight grip. So you can run anything else you would prefer. This is kind of opening that variety spectrum, which is something you love to see. And then you can run on hand VDD 64M stock, whatever sight you prefer. And then for the underbarrel, it's just a matter of you'll be reducing a couple of bullets and a couple of bullets extended depending on the attachment you use. So if you run the Mark 6 Skeletal, you'll get no change to the recoil pattern you saw. If you choose the M1941, you'll get a reduction of a couple of bullets vertically, and so on and so forth. So choose whatever you prefer, whatever you feel your build would go off well with, and then pretty much enjoy the build from there. But with that said, this is the best MG42 in Season 4 of Warzone. And there you have the updated off-meta for Season 4. Now, let me know in the comment section down below if you've been interested by any of these builds today, if you've maybe already discovered some of these, and what you think of Season 4 so far with the changes it brought to maybe your favorite weapon or your least favorite weapons. But with that said, I thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Thank you for reaching this point if you did. The UGM8 also received a couple of changes, which if you want to go ahead and stay on track with any change or any quick changes that happens within Warzone, then go ahead and follow me on Twitter, because I stay rather active there and I try to post as many updates as possible that maybe I can't get in a timely manner on a YouTube video. But with nothing else left to say, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and through it all, I hope you always remember, Sauce Time Gaming.